Hey everyone, it's Samantha. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a brand new book recommendations video. Today's video is a Taylor Swift themed video, which I don't really think I've done other than the Eras Tour movie vlog, which I will link down below because that was so much fun. I've never really done this type of video on my channel before, which is very unlike me because two of my biggest passions in life are books and Taylor Swift. So today's video is going to be book recommendations based on each track on the album Folklore. If you've never heard Folklore before, which I am sure you all have if you've clicked on this video, it came out in the summer of 2020 while we were all in lockdown during the pandemic, and Taylor Swift basically had all of these stories in her mind and decided to write them into songs, create some fake characters for some of the songs. There's actually a film that kind of goes deeper into how she created the songs at Long Pond Studios alongside Aaron Dessner and Jack Antonoff. This album seriously turned me into a Swiftie. The song The Lakes specifically was the first song that I ever heard where I was like, oh my god, I love Taylor Swift. And it was so fun coming up with book recommendations based on each track. If you'd like me to do this for any other of her albums or just other albums in general, let me know down below. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. So basically the way that I'm going to structure this video is I'm going to first explain like what song is up, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the song, some of the lyrics, give a brief summary of it in case some of you have never heard it before, and then I'm going to give a brief summary of the book that I paired with it. I am going in order of the track list. So number one, we have The One. This song, it kind of seems sad at first, but then the more you listen to it, you're like, we're kind of reflecting on the whole relationship and kind of looking back at the memories and seeing that even though something can go really wrong, like a relationship, it doesn't take away from the fact that there were some really great memories. So the book that I paired with The One is Daisy Jones and the Six. And some of you might be thinking that doesn't make sense at all, but for me in my head, I kind of took it as like the main lyric of the song being, it would have been fun if you could have been the one. That kind of goes hand in hand with the main relationship in Daisy Jones and the Six, as well as some of the side relationships. Basically, this book is about a band in the late 60s that is kind of inspired by Fleetwood Mac. Everybody in the band is pairing up romantically, and there's all this drama. They're writing songs about their relationships, and it's kind of like blurring the lines between their actual real life relationships and the songs that they're writing. So for me personally, the main relationship in this book with Daisy and Billy kind of reminds me of The One. It could have been really fun if everything with the band hadn't been so dramatic and public. The next song on the track list is Cardigan. I'm wearing my cardigan right now. This song is kind of about what seems to me like a young love relationship. And one of the lines in the song is, when you are young, they assume you know nothing. And so it kind of just gives that whole like teenage love, too young to understand the feelings, but you also definitely felt them. And one of the lines in particular is Peter losing Wendy, talking about the whole story of Peter Pan and Wendy and going to Neverland, not wanting to grow up, having these big feelings for each other, but being so young that you just didn't know what to do with them. And then Wendy comes back and kind of has to grow up and forget about Peter and all of their memories together. So that is the reason why I paired Never with this song. Never is a book by one of my favorite authors ever, Jessa Hastings. She also wrote Magnolia Parks. This book in particular is about the story of Peter Pan. It's kind of like a retelling with a love triangle between one of Wendy's descendants. I think she's her great-granddaughter. She gets into a love triangle in Neverland with the son of Captain Hook and Peter Pan himself, because Peter can't really grow up. Every single lyric in Cardigan, and also Peter by Taylor Swift, which is not on Folklore, it's on the Tortured Poets department, the anthology. I just think every single line from both of those songs fits with this book. Next we have The Last Great American Dynasty, which is a song about Rebecca Harkness, who was a socialite, I'm pretty sure, and lived in a giant house in Rhode Island called Holiday House. And basically the reason why Taylor Swift wrote this song is because she ended up buying Holiday House. She lives there now, so she kind of wanted to pay homage to the whole story of Holiday House. That is why I paired the Inheritance Games with this song, because I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory. I think a lot of people pair it in their heads anyway. If you're unfamiliar with these books, they're some of my favorite books ever. And basically this book is about Avery Grams, who is a regular teenage girl who gets called to Texas to one of the richest families in the world, if not the richest, and finds out that she was named in the will of Tobias Hawthorne, who was the grandfather in this big family who just passed away. And she's kind of confused, like, why did I get called to the reading of the will if I'm not related to you at all? And it just kind of goes deeper from there. So it talks a lot about a family like the Harkness family and just reminds me so much of the story in the song and in real life. Next up is Exile, which I paired with The Cruel Prince. Exile is another song about a relationship that's kind of been exhausted in a way. Some of the lyrics in Exile just remind me so much of The Cruel Prince, because one of the lyrics in particular from the chorus is, "Now I'm in exile, seeing you out." And this series as a whole, specifically the last 2 books in the Cruel Prince series, remind me of that so much, because there is a little subplot having to do with exile. One of the characters, I'm not going to say which one because it's a little bit of a spoiler, but one of the characters gets exiled from the fairy realm and kind of has to live with the fallout of their relationship with the character that exiled them. So the song Exile just kind of makes too much sense in my brain. I have heard some mixed things, and a lot of people complain because the romance doesn't really pick up until the 2nd and 3rd books in the series, but personally I love when it takes a little bit of time to establish the relationship. I am very much not a fan of insta-love, and they're very rich in detail and talk about the fairy world so much that it just feels like you are escaping to the fairy world when you read them. The next song on the track list is My Tears Ricochet, which is actually a whole long story about Scooter Braun and Taylor Swift. At least that's how most people kind of interpret the lyrics from that song. Specifically the lyric that says, "When you can't sleep at night, you'll hear my stolen lullabies." And the whole thing with Scooter Braun and Taylor Swift, it's a whole drama-filled story about stolen songs and the reason why Taylor Swift is putting out her old albums using the term Taylor's version. So I highly recommend looking up the whole backstory behind that. I'm not going to go into it here, but that's the premise of My Tears Ricochet, at least in my mind when I listen to it. For me, it reminded me so much of Just for the Summer, but not the relationship between the 2 main characters involved in the romance. I really thought a lot about the main character of this book, Emma, and her mom and their relationship. Her mom was kind of not very much a part of her life, and everything in that song really reminds me of that whole relationship. The next song is Mirrorball. This song is about always trying but never feeling good enough. I've never been a natural, all I do is try, try, try. That's one of the lyrics from the song. There's a whole metaphor having to do with a circus, which is why I paired this next book with the song Mirrorball. But the whole lyric about the circus, when they called off the circus and burned the disco down, when they sent home the horses and the rodeo clowns, I'm still on that tightrope. I'm still trying everything to keep you laughing at me and like keep you loving me. So that is why I paired the night circus with Mirrorball, because I feel like the whole circus atmosphere, and specifically the metaphor about life feeling like a circus, and when all the craziness leaves, you're just there, not sure if people are gonna love you and want you anymore. That really reminded me so much of The Night Circus, which is about this magical circus where all of these magical people kind of work, and it's really a story about like invention and love and life, and it's just so interesting. I think that this book should be analyzed. Like, I would love to do a whole deep dive, write an essay on this book. I literally wrote my Goodreads review based on the song Mirrorball. I said, if you like Mirrorball by Taylor Swift, read this book. The next song on the track list is 7, which is a song about childhood best friends. The lyrics are, "Please picture me in the trees, I hit my peak at 7," and talk a lot about the friendship between the 2 kids. There's also a lyric that I love, which is, "Love you to the moon and to Saturn." There's a whole section that talks about like packing your dolls up and moving to India, which is just I love everything about this song so much, and I think it says a lot about childhood friendships. I paired this song with Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, which is not a book that I have a physical copy of. I actually listened to it in audiobook form, which I really highly recommend, actually. That book is about video game creators, believe it or not, who kind of go through life creating video games. But the thing is, they were friends growing up and met in the hospital, so it's way deeper than what I just said. It's following their lives from childhood to adulthood. It's one of the deepest stories that I've ever read. The whole childhood friends to people that you're just always going to be attached to in life really spoke to me as I was kind of trying to pick which book to pair with 7. Next is August. I had to pair this with We Were Liars. This is one of my favorite books ever. I don't understand why so many people hate it so much. I do get that it is not a book for everybody. The ending is very dark. This just is the epitome of summer and August and relationships that kind of slip away into a moment of time, as one of the lyrics in August goes. And just like everything about the essence and vibe of that song fits this book and the prequel Family of Liars so well. This book is basically about a really rich family who owns a private island kind of near Martha's Vineyard. There was a really traumatic incident where the main character hit her head and doesn't remember what happened the past summer. It kind of dives deeper into that and the whole remembering what happened, and it was very traumatic, very dark, but it was just so beautifully written, and I am planning to reread this every single summer of my life. The next song is This Is Me Trying. This song is kind of self-explanatory. They told me all of my cages were mental, so I got wasted like all my potential. and there's like a whole part about I was so ahead of the curve became a sphere, fell behind on my classmates, and I ended up here. And that really spoke to me when I thought of Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I think I mentioned this in my summer vlog from Wildwood, so I'll link that video down below if you want to hear more about my thoughts on this book. But I had a very love-hate relationship with this book, specifically going into it. I really disliked this book at the beginning and middle. It wasn't until the end when I fully understood the reason behind why she told her story the way she did and why she included so many depressing, sad things from her life. And the way she just wrapped it up in the end, I really enjoyed. I think this is a book that most women would benefit reading. I really didn't know how to feel, and I still kind of don't, but I think that that's the whole point of the book, and it really just needs to sit with you in order for you to fully understand it. And the lyrics of This Is Me Trying just fit hand in hand with the stuff that goes on in this book. The next song is Illicit Affairs, and for this one, I really wanted to say the inheritance games as well, because there is a specific relationship having to do with Avery's mom. If you've read the books, then you'll obviously know who I'm talking about. This song reminds me so much of their relationship, but I couldn't recommend the same book twice. So I recommend The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This song is so beautiful and so heartbreaking, kind of about like a forbidden relationship and how when you're in that relationship, you have to hide a lot of parts of yourself and parts of your love and the relationship in order for no one else to find out. And I'm not going to give away much about this book. It's kind of already giving a little bit away just by saying that the two match up. But there are some characters in this book that have a bit of a forbidden relationship, and it ends up turning really, really messy really quickly. This book is a thriller, so keep that in mind. Maybe look up the trigger warnings. The next song is one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs ever, Invisible String. I love this song so much, and I think that it fits so many of my relationships in my life, because the whole invisible string theory is basically about how all of these events and all of the things that happen in your life kind of lead you to a certain person that the universe knew you needed. And I have a whole playlist about the invisible string theory. I'll link it down below. It's on my Spotify, which I recommend checking out because I have so many Taylor Swift playlists that include Taylor Swift songs. Some of the lyrics in this song are, "Isn't it so pretty to think all along there was some invisible string tying you to me?" So for me, this really reminded me of One Day in December, which is a book about two people who meet at a bus stop. The girl is going on one of the red double-decker buses in London, and the guy is kind of hanging out around the bus stop, and they see each other through the window. They have like a moment where their eyes meet, and it's like, oh my god, you're my person. But then the bus drives away, so they kind of part ways, never see each other again, until one day she finds out that he is in a relationship with somebody that she knows very closely. And it just reminded me so much of the invisible string theory and the song by Taylor Swift, because all of these little instances in their lives brought them together again. The next song is Mad Woman, which is a song I feel like is very slept on. I really think it has to do with the whole Taylor Swift, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian drama. If you know anything about that, again, I'm not going to get into the drama in this video, but I highly recommend looking it up and doing your research. The song kind of talks about how these people, or this person, kind of turned the person singing the song into a mad woman. Do you see her in the neighbor's lawn? Do you wonder, like, is she okay? Like, you made her a mad woman. What a shame she went mad, as the lyrics say. So for me, the song always reminded me of Throne of Glass. The second that I read this book, I immediately connected it to Mad Woman. And this book is about Selena, who's a very powerful young woman who fights off these bad guys as an assassin and kind of finds herself in this competition where the king is trying to pick his personal assassin. I have a reading vlog where I read the entire series, so I will link that down below. That video is one of my favorites that I've ever made, and I just love this series and that song so much, so it's just kind of a no-brainer to pair them together in my head. The next song is Epiphany, which is actually about Taylor Swift's grandfather who fought in a war and dealt with many hardships and losses. I love listening to it and really kind of appreciating the story that she's telling. It's actually one of my best friend's favorite songs. She kind of made me appreciate the beauty of the song when I appreciated the song, but it just has a different meaning now that, she appreciates it so much, if that makes sense. I recommend listening to it if you've never heard it before. It's another one that's pretty slept on throughout Taylor Swift's discography, so you might not have heard of it. For this song, I paired it with Divine Rivals, which is not a book that I have finished reading. I started it this morning because I immediately thought of it when I was trying to pair these songs to books. Even though I've never read it, I know that it's about a war having to do with gods that used to be the rulers of the land, and the main characters are writing letters to each other, and it's kind of about enemies to lovers, but also talking about the war and all of this stuff that I don't fully understand yet because I'm only like 40 pages into the book. book, but I did start it this morning because I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like something I definitely wouldn't recommend from page 1, and I don't feel that way at all. So far, the writing is so lyrical and detailed, and it's just so beautiful. I will definitely let you know in future videos if I fully recommend it, but in my head, the two just made sense together. The next song is Betty. It's about this fake love triangle that Taylor Swift made up. I mean, I don't really know how fake it is. I feel like she definitely took inspiration from the people that she knows and the relationships that she's been in. Basically, it's about Betty, James, and Augustine, 3 characters that she made up and kind of put into a bunch of songs on the Folklore album, and kind of the relationship specifically between Betty and James, and how James cheated on Betty with Augustine, and the fallout of that whole relationship. And one of the lines from that song specifically is, "If I showed up at your party, would you have me? Would you love me?" So I immediately thought of a YA couple that we all know and love, and the more I thought about it, the more that they made sense together. So, better than the movies. This book is about Liz and Wes and their whole relationship, and how it just follows all of these really classic rom-coms, which are some of my favorite movies ever. Everything about the song Betty reminds me of Liz and Wes's relationship. Not necessarily the cheating part, there was nothing really like that in this book. The whole vibe and the whole YA type of like showing up at her doorstep and being like, "Hey, I kind of really like you. Will you like forgive me for the stuff that I've done in the past?" The next song is another beautiful song, Peace. This song is kind of about how fame can really taint a relationship, specifically talking about like Taylor Swift's fame. She really discusses the whole feeling of being in a romantic relationship, but also just being so in the public eye. If I can never give you peace, if you will always be in the public eye in some way, will you still want to be with me? That really reminded me of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is a recent 5-star for me. This book is about sort of like a Marilyn Monroe type character, Evelyn Hugo, who has 7 different husbands, but also has some interesting relationships that were never really shown. A reporter/journalist is going to be writing her memoir for her, so this just makes so much sense in my brain. The next song is Hoax, which is a really heartbreaking song, honestly. And I had to pair this song with Magnolia Parks. I feel like I find a way to bring Magnolia Parks into every single video I make, which is, you know, no big deal. Specifically the lyric, "Your faithless love is the only hoax I believe in." First of all, lyrics. Second of all, why is that literally the entire plot of Magnolia Parks? These books are not for everybody, as I've said many times before, so check trigger warnings, maybe know going into it before you start them that these books are all about cheating, but they are also the most beautiful books I've ever read. So everything about the two had to be paired together. The last song is my favorite song, The Lakes. This is the bonus song on the deluxe album. It's just so beautiful, and the lyrics especially, "Take me to the lakes where all the poets went to die." Those lyrics spoke to me so much during 2020 and were really there for me, and I had to pair it with Tom Lake, which is another book I don't have a physical copy of because I listened to the audiobook. I highly recommend doing that because Meryl Streep actually narrated the audiobook, which just added to the atmospheric level of it so much more. And everything about the song and that book, literally, they are each other. It's very much a character study and discusses the main character who now owns, with her husband and her kids, a farm. I don't remember much about the plot of that book, but I just remember how beautiful it was and just feeling like I was there in their little orchard. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had so much fun pairing off books and songs, and I would love to do it for other albums and songs, so let me know if you like more of these videos. Again, comment down below. Let me know which ones you'd like to see in particular. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.